Hola, buenos días. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Bienvenido a la clase número 4. So welcome to class number 4 or lesson number 4. Today we'll be looking at places in Spanish and giving directions. Vamos a ello. Let's get stuck in. Okay, here it is. So you'll find in your booklet that you have lesson number 4, places and given directions. So in Spanish, places are lugares and directions are direcciones. Lugares y direcciones. By now, some of the things that we've looked at in previous lessons should start to come together, where you'll be remembering little bits about the el and the la and so on. And we'll keep pointing them out as well throughout the lesson. Okay, so here's a list of some of the typical places in a Spanish town. We've got La Carnicería. This could be a good one as well to gain a little bit of extra vocabulary, apart from what we're actually doing here. So we could take a note and we could put here carne. La carnicería, the butchers, and the word for meat in Spanish is carne. So you can kind of see the beginning part of the word coinciding with the name of the place, which is quite helpful to learn 2 words in one. La carnicería. So another thing that we need to mention is the accent on the I. As we've said in previous lessons, the accent is telling us where we need to put our focus, our strength. So we say carnicería, and you can hear the strength is at the end of the word, carnicería. It's kind of as if your voice goes up a little bit at the end. And all words ending in ría are feminine. So we have la carnicería, la ferretería. This is one that can cause problems with the pronunciation. So we need to remember that we roll the double R's in Spanish. And then we've got the strength at the end of the word, la ferretería. The hardware shop, la frutería. And then we can take that to grab an extra word in Spanish again. And we can say in Spanish, la fruta, fruit, or la carne. If you want to, another good thing to do is to, when we learn a new word, always practice it with el or la. So we know if that word is masculine or feminine. That's really going to help when we start building our own sentences shortly. La frutería, la librería, the bookshop, la librería, y en español, book is el libro. El libro, la librería. We can see the O ending with the L. These are all things that should start to come together after watching the first 3 videos. La panadería, pan, or mejor, even better, el pan. La zapatería, the shoe shop. And we can put here el zapato. El estanco is quite an original Spanish name. El estanco is what they call the tobacco and stamp shop. So each town or even village has one of these. It's normally got a red sign outside. It says tobacco above the door. El estanco. You can buy cards in there, like birthday cards, sometimes souvenirs as well. El supermercado. So we've got the O ending with the el, o with con el. La farmacia, a con la, femenino. Y continuamos. Let's continue. Here are our next. our next list, our next few places. I've put on here El Chino, which is what it's called commonly in Spanish, El Chino, the Chinese shop. You'll see that a lot of Spanish villages and towns, cities, really anywhere you are, all have these Chinese shops, which are kind of a bit like a pound shop in the UK. Not that everything's a pound there, but it's just a place where you can buy really a mix of so many different things at a good price. El Chino o la tienda china. El aeropuerto, the airport. El ayuntamiento, the town hall. Some of these names, if they're a little bit long, you can kind of break them into syllables. For example, here, ayuntamiento, ayuntamiento, aeropuerto. El y el, so they're both masculine with the O endings. La autoescuela, the driving school, la autoescuela. The road, referring to a main road, would be la carretera. La carretera. The building, this is kind of when we get into given directions in a moment. Oh, it's next to this building, or it's next to that building, or it's on that road. This is when we would use some of these. El edificio, el edificio. Remembering the C and the I. I'm not going to keep saying every single pronunciation thing now. We've had a few lessons. If you're thinking, where's that sound coming from? Then go back and check lesson number 1, or even if you go back in your booklet and look at the first lesson, just to check that. La estación de autobuses. La estación de autobuses. La parada de autobús. La parada de autobús. So we've got the bus station and the bus stop. The stop is at parada, and the station, estación, femenino y femenino, con la. This is another one. How do I know if I've got a name in Spanish where it's a group of words? So here we've got estación de autobuses, 3 words going on. We'd always use the first word to determine if I need to use el or la. So because estación, all words ending in ción, or feminine, we would say la estación. Or parada with the A ending being feminine, la parada. And really, everything else is just a complement to it. So the main thing in the sentence would be the first. Or in the name, if it's not a sentence, it would be the first word. De is meaning in Spanish of, and that's something we're going to be seeing in a moment with the directions. So it's literally station of buses, or a stop of bus, or stop of taxi. A lot of the Spanish names are worded like this. It's a very simple way of wording things using de. So bear that in mind, that you're going to hear de an awful lot. La estación de autobuses, la parada de autobús, la parada de taxis. La iglesia. El museo. The church and the museum. We've got the taxi rank as well. La oficina de turismo. The tourist office. La oficina de correos. And we can see again, we've got oficina first, so it's feminine, la. And then we've got a double R, correos. Turismo, which is very simple. It's not really, doesn't have one of the difficult letters in it. El puerto. El paseo marítimo. And you can hear the accent if you listen out. Marítimo. You can hear that the strength is in the middle of the word. Marítimo. La comisaría. You can hear the strength again at the end, which is the police station in Spanish. It's a name that you think, oh, I wouldn't think it'd be called that, but it is. La comisaría. And then if we're talking about the Guardia Civil, the military police, also the ones that deal with traffic, el tráfico. In Spanish, they are la Guardia Civil, la Guardia Civil. This is maybe one for the pronunciation, the th sound, and then the soft B, la Guardia Civil. La Guardia Civil, and their barracks, their station, would be called el cuartel de la Guardia Civil. Okay, another important one would be the doctors, the medical center. So the public medical centers in Spain are called Centro de Salud. We've seen salud already when we did the expressions. El Centro de Salud. Or you could say the doctors, el médico. So the doctor that sees you would be el médico. You could refer to the place as médico. If we say in Spanish, a really useful expression where we say voy. If I'm saying in Spanish, I'm going to the doctors, I would say voy al médico. I'm going to the doctors, referring to the place in general. Or I could say voy al centro de salud. I'm going to the medical center. This is what it would be called officially if you needed to name it or look on Google where it is and you can't find it. It's because you need to type in, you need to look for el centro de salud. Okay, vale, continuamos. El hospital, remembering the silent H, el hospital. La peluquería. El bar. And then we've got some which are very similar to English. El bar, el restaurante, el chiringuito. Chiringuito is like a beach hut. It's the wooden bars that you find on the Spanish beaches. And the pronunciation here is chiringuito, chiringuito. You can't actually hear the U, otherwise it would sound like chiringuito, and it's not chiringuito, it's chiringuito. And the reason for that being is because the U actually kind of creates a block. So the block it's creating, if you go back to lesson 1 and you look at this letter in Spanish, la letra G, this is a noisy throat sound letter when it's followed by an I or an E. And because we don't want it to make that throat sound, we want it to make a G sound. The U is kind of our way of blocking that. So if we come across any words, we've got the G, the G, and then we've got a U. We're just going to pronounce it like a G, like the G that we know in Spanish for any other letter, like gato, cat, that type of sound. Chiringuito, chiringuito. These are things that will keep popping out as we learn new vocabulary and we can come back to, just to make sure we know exactly what we're doing with those. It's not something we need to learn in one lesson right now. It's something that we need to have a little bit of patience with. To really get the hang of it, we need to see quite a few examples. Then we have el banco, el cajero, so the bank and the cash machine, la gasolinera, the petrol station, la tienda de ropa, remembering we've got the R sound at the beginning, la piscina, we've got the th again, la piscina, el centro comercial, we've got a mistake here, el centro comercial only has one M. El centro comercial. Spanish spelling doesn't normally have double letters. There is an exception where some of the letters are double N's. But apart from that, we don't have double P's, double M's, which makes spelling a lot easier in Spanish. But my computer's decided to add an extra M in there. Don't worry, this will not be on in your booklet. You'll have the correct version in your booklet. La asesoría, the solicitors. La notaría, the notary. These are places that if you have a property in Spain, you might, or even buying a car or any tax to pay, places you might have to visit, so they're good also to know the name. La asesoría y la notaría. Muy bien. This is just practice. Okay. So let's have a look at some of the directions. Giving directions. First of all, how do we say in Spanish where is? So we say ¿dónde está? ¿Dónde está? Perdón, ¿dónde está? Excuse me, where is? ¿Dónde está la asesoría? Where is the solicitors? Perdón, ¿dónde está el banco? Excuse me, where is the bank? Oh, perdón, ¿dónde está el museo? Where is the museum? This is something you can practice at home. Estoy buscando. Estoy buscando. I'm looking for. Estoy buscando la piscina. O estoy buscando el chiringuito. You're on the beach, you're looking for the beach hut. Estoy buscando el chiringuito. And you can hear that in these questions we're using ¿dónde está el? ¿Dónde está el banco? O ¿dónde está la? ¿Dónde está la ferretería? So this is why it's important to learn words, knowing if they're masculine or feminine, because the el and the la is in so many of the sentences. If we didn't learn whether it were masculine or feminine here, we'd be thinking, is it el, is it la? So just to make that easier, it's always best to learn the word with the article in front of it, with the el or the la in front of it. ¿Dónde está la gasolinera? Where is the petrol station? I'm looking for the greengrocers. Estoy buscando la frutería. And then if we wanted to say something is walking, maybe walking distance, we would say andando. Or if we wanted to say by car, we would say en coche. Aquí. En coche. Maybe you want to add on in Spanish the word for minutes. So we would say minutos. And we can use our numbers from last lesson. 5 minutos andando. So wherever it is a 5-minute walk away. O 10 minutos en coche, 10 minutes by car. 15 minutos en coche. 25 minutos andando. 30 minutos andando o en coche. I'm not going to translate the numbers to that one. Okay, fantastic. Fantástico. Vamos a continuar. Let's continue. So these places are something you can kind of practice, learn as you go along when you're out and about. That would be the best way to go about it, I think. Rather than having to try to memorize all in one go. It's best to keep it as practical as possible. Okay, so some more little bits that we need for giving directions. We've got right and left. We'll just zoom in a little. So we've got derecha, right, izquierda, left, izquierda, derecha, izquierda. Recto would be straight. Todo recto, todo in Spanish means all. So todo recto, all straight, meaning straight on. Todo recto. Enfrente, in front, and in front of. Enfrente de. Going back to the de that we mentioned a few minutes ago. So how would you say in Spanish? In front of the butchers. Have you got it? So we would say enfrente de la carnicería. We would always use the la or the el of the place, and we're using the de to put the sentence together. In front of, and then the place. Enfrente de la pescadería. Which one would that be? Check your list. Enfrente del banco. That one sounds a little bit different. We've not used de el. So this is something I'm going to pop on here as well while we're at it. So what we're doing really is we're using the de, then we're adding the place on, and we're adding the place with always el or la. So if I wanted to say in front of the butchers, I'm saying in Spanish, enfrente de la carnicería. Okay, and I'm using the meaning of, I'm saying in front of the butchers. I'm using the, and all that's perfect. But what about if I want to say that it's in front of the bank? Enfrente de el banco. So what happens here? Once again, this isn't something that needs to be absorbed instantly. This is something that takes a little bit of practice. Is we need to use the de to use our translation of. We need to use el for the. But in Spanish, when these two words come together, de el, they actually form into one. So de and el in Spanish become del. Really, this is a pronunciation thing. If we had to say enfrente del banco, we've got the we've got the two sounds, and it's very difficult to differentiate where one word ends, another word starts. It's a bit of a mouthful as well. Enfrente de el banco, it's like So that's pushed together. So we've got of the, could be de la or del. So for feminine words, we would say de la, and for masculine, we would say del. This is something that will, every time it pops up, we will mention it until we get there with it. So if we wanted to say in front of the bank, I would say enfrente del banco. Muy bien. If I wanted to say in front of the town hall, I would say, because town hall is masculine, enfrente del ayuntamiento. Enfrente del ayuntamiento. Muy bien. Okay, let's finish what we have left on this list. Subiendo la cuesta, going up the hill. Subiendo la cuesta. To turn in Spanish, we would use the verb girar. So the action to turn in Spanish is girar. And then if I wanted to say turn to the left, I would say gira a la izquierda. Turn to the right, gira a la derecha. Then if I wanted to go straight on, I would say sigue todo recto. Sigue todo recto. Or I would say siga todo recto. What's the difference? The difference is sigue is a more common way, siga is a more formal way. This isn't something that I'm going to go into in the beginning course, the beginner's course. It's something that we would probably start to mention in the following, the intermediate course. But just for you to know, you can use either one. Siga is a very formal way. We might not necessarily need to use that if we're giving directions. But just in case you hear it, we could say sigue or siga todo recto. While we're on the subject, we've got our GUE, a GUE back again. So the U is blocking the G and the E from making that noisy throat sound. So it's not sigue, it's sigue. Sigue o siga todo recto. And then streets, which street is it? So in Spanish, street is calle, remembering the y sound like the y in yoke for the double L. And then we've got first, second, third, and fourth. So we have la primera calle. Calle es femenina. So it's feminine, calle, so it's la. La segunda calle. La tercera calle. La cuarta calle. La carretera, the road, which we've seen above in the places. The roundabout, la rotonda o redonda. This is completely up to you which one you want to use. Different people use different ones. It's all the same. It can also be called in Spanish la glorieta. Personally, I call it redonda. It's really up to you. Redonda, rotonda are the most common two, whatever you think is easier for you, but it's good to know that there's different options, because if we close our minds to saying, oh, roundabout is redonda, and then somebody comes up to us and says rotonda or glorieta, then we're completely lost. So it's not that you need to memorize all three, it's just letting you know that those options do exist. An exit, the exit, la salida. And then we've got the option again of what exit, first, second, third, la primera salida, la segunda salida, la tercera salida. Okay, so we've got lots to practice with our places and our directions. You can even try at home, maybe to write out 2 or 3 lines of giving directions using this video and using your notes to translate it to see what you get. How would we say in Spanish? Let's have a little practice. Where is the petrol station? ¿Dónde está la gasolinera? And you could say, turn right, gira a la derecha, and it's in front of the post office. Y está enfrente de la oficina de correos. This is something we'll keep practicing until it's really, really loose and we can just say, ¿dónde está la oficina de turismo? La oficina de turismo está enfrente de la oficina de correos. Está a la izquierda de... está todo recto. Está subiendo la cuesta. The more we practice, if you've got somebody at home you can practice with, you can make it into a little game of guessing where you're going. You can get a little map. That would be a great idea. And just before I end this video lesson, oh, we've got a few more. We've got a few more left. My apologies. And there's one more thing I would like to show you also before we end this recording. So we've got the fourth exit, la cuarta salida, the street, we've seen already, la calle, el semáforo, the traffic lights, el peatón, the pedestrian, la acera, the pavement, el paso de peatones, o el paso de cebra. And if you want to say in Spanish, oh, it's there, está ahí. Remembering the y sound, está ahí. Close, cerca, close to, we would say in Spanish close of, so we would use de again, we would say cerca de. If I wanted to say it's close to, where am I going? It's close to the church. Está cerca de la iglesia. Está cerca de la iglesia. Or it's far from, which we would also use de. So we would use, it's for of, we would use de, which can be from or of. It's far from the supermarket. Está lejos del supermercado. And because we've got the de and the el, we've put together del. Está cerca o lejos del supermercado. Or if you needed to say, look, I'm not from around here, I don't know my way around this town, we could say, no soy de aquí. We know soy from our greetings lesson. And whenever we put a no in front of a sentence in Spanish, we're making that sentence negative. We don't need to do anything else to it. We don't need to worry about how do we say can't, didn't, won't. All these words in English and Spanish, it's a lot easier. We would just use the no directly at the front of the sentence. So soy is I am, I'm not, no soy, I'm not from, de, here, aquí. No soy de aquí. Aha. Now we finished the list. Okay. So one last thing I would like to show you before we end this recording is a website that I think is fantastic, that I've used a lot in many of my classes. And the website is called, I'm going to share it on the screen with you. Here it is. The website is called Profe de L. Profe is a short word in Spanish for the word profesor, which is teacher. El profesor, or in feminine, la profesora. And sometimes we say for short, profe, profe de L. So it's a teacher of L. L stands for enseñanza, lengua extranjera o española. So enseñanza is teaching, lengua is a language, and it can stand for that you're teaching a foreign language, which would be extranjera. Or if you're teaching Spanish language, enseñanza de lengua española. So that's what the website means, if you're wondering, what's this all about? And here you've got different levels. So if we're in the beginner's course, it might be worth starting at the A1 level, which is the lowest level that you can start at, the most basic, and you can make your way up. And here we've got this lesson, which is called Vocabulario de los lugares de trabajo. So vocabulary of places. They've called it places of work, where people work. This is a fantastic website. You can just type into your search engine profedel.es, so profedel.es, and you've got inside a whole bunch of different activities you can really get into. So you've got a map here. You could, if you wanted to, have a go on the computer with this or print it out. So you've got here the places with the numbers in front of them. So you could use the list from our lesson to check if you know what all the names are. And then once you've finished, you can drag it across and check if you're right or wrong. La autoescuela, el ayuntamiento, el banco, la biblioteca, el supermercado. There's so many places. We could go on forever with the places. So as long as you're following the first lesson of the pronunciation correctly, if you come across a new place, you should know how to pronounce it. And I just think things like this are a great way of remembering. Even if you're struggling with the places and you print something like this off and you stick it on your fridge or somewhere in the house where you can keep going back looking at it, that would be a fantastic idea. Muchas gracias. So thank you so much for watching the lesson. I hope you get on well with your learning of places and giving directions, and that you can practice with this lesson. So I will see you in lesson number 5. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego. Y nos vemos en la clase número 5. Adiós.